It's Sue. Thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading. I'm reading for August 18th, Jeremiah 23 to 25 from the World English Bible. Woe to the shepherds who destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh, the God of Israel, says, against the shepherds who feed my people, you have scattered my flock, driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit on you the evil of your doings, says Yahweh. I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they will be fruitful and multiply. I will set up shepherds over them who will feed them. They will no longer be afraid or dismayed, neither will any be lacking, says Yahweh. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will raise to David a righteous branch, and he will reign as king and deal wisely, and will execute justice and righteousness in the land. In his days Judah will be saved, and Israel will dwell safely. This is his name by which he will be called, Yahweh our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that they will no more say, as Yahweh lives, who brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but as Yahweh lives, who brought up and who led the offspring of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all the countries where I had driven them. Then they will come and dwell in their own land. Concerning the prophets, my heart within me is broken, all my bones shake. I am like a drunken man, and like a man whom wine has overcome, because Yahweh and because of his holy words. For the land is full of adulterers, for because of the curse the land mourns. The pastures of the wilderness have dried up, their course is evil, and their might is not right. For both prophet and priest are profane. Yes, in my house I have found their wickedness, says Yahweh. Therefore their way will be to them as slippery places in the darkness. They will be driven on and fallen therein. For I will bring evil on them, even the year of their visitation, says Yahweh. I have seen folly in the prophets of Samaria. They prophesied by Baal and caused my people Israel to err. In the prophets of Jerusalem I also have seen a horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen the hands of evildoers so that no one returns from his wickedness. They have all become to me as Sodom, and its inhabitants as Gomorrah. Nothing new under the sun, huh? 15. Therefore Yahweh of armies says concerning the prophets, behold, I will feed them with wormwood and make them drink poisoned water, for from the prophets of Jerusalem ungodliness has gone out into the land. Yahweh of armies says, don't listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They teach you vanity. They speak a vision of their own heart and not out of the mouth of Yahweh. They say continually to those who despise me, Yahweh has said you will have peace, and to everyone who walks in the stubbornness of his own heart, they say, no evil will come on you. For who has stood in the counsel of Yahweh that he should perceive and hear his word? Who has listened to my word and heard it? Behold, Yahweh's storm, his wrath, has gone out. Yes, a whirling storm. It will be burst on the head of the wicked. Yahweh's anger will not return until he has executed and until he has performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days you will understand it perfectly. I didn't send these prophets, yet they ran. I didn't speak to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have caused my people to hear my words, and would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their doings. Am I a God at hand, says Yahweh, and not a God afar off? Can anyone hide himself in secret places so that I can't see him? Says Yahweh. Don't I fill heaven and earth? Says Yahweh. I have heard what the prophets have said, who prophesy lies in my name, saying, I had a dream, I had a dream. How long will this be in the heart of the prophets who prophesy lies, even the prophets of the deceit of their own heart? They intend to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they each tell his neighbor, as their fathers forget my name because of Baal. The prophet who has a dream, let him tell a dream, and he who has my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the straw to the wheat, says Yahweh? Isn't my word like fire, says Yahweh, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, who each steal my words from his neighbor. Behold, I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, who use their tongues and say, he says, behold, I am against those who prophesy lying dreams, says Yahweh, who tell them and cause my people to err by their lies and by their vain boasting. Yet I didn't send them or command them. They don't profit this people at all, says Yahweh. When this people or the prophet or a priest asks you, saying, what is the message from Yahweh? Then you shall tell them, what message? I will cast you off, says Yahweh. As for the prophet, the priest, and the people who say, the message from Yahweh, I will even punish that man and his household. You will say, every one to his neighbor and every one to his brother, what has Yahweh answered, and what has Yahweh said? You will mention the message from Yahweh no more, for every man's own words have become his message. For you have perverted the words of the living God, of Yahweh of armies, our God. You will say to the prophet, what has Yahweh answered you, and what has Yahweh spoken? Although you say the message from Yahweh, therefore Yahweh says, because you say this word, the message from Yahweh, and I have sent to you, telling you not to say the message from Yahweh. Therefore, behold, I will utterly forget you. I will cast you off in the city that I gave to you and to your fathers away from my presence. Wow, that's really scary. And I will cast you off in the city that I gave to you and your fathers away from my presence. I will bring an everlasting reproach on you and a perpetual shame which will not be forgotten. Chapter 24. Yahweh showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before Yahweh's temple, after Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and the princes of Judah, with the craftsmen and smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. Now, if you're new to this, there are 3 excursions to Babylon from Jerusalem, and I think it's like, darn, now I don't remember, like 400 to 800, somewhere between their miles. And I'm imagining they might have had pack animals and stuff, but they probably walked a lot of that way. So they had 3, and I've talked about this before on the channel, but certain people and kings got taken in the first excursion, certain in the second, and certain in the third. On the third one was when the temple was destroyed and Jerusalem was burned. At one point, and we see this in the other prophets, but just so you have some background, at one point in this whole situation, Daniel and his associates were taken to Babylon, and they were put in the, let's just call it the administration area. They were young, they were smart, they were put in the, I guess they were educated, they were put in the administrative area to serve Babylon. There were Ezekiel was taken at another point in time. He was actually supposed to be a priest. He was 25 when he was taken, and 5 years later, at the age of 30, when he was sitting by the river Kebar, he was called by God to prophesy, and his prophecy was and work was toward the exiles. I kind of picture like a tent city. I don't know how they kept all the exiles, but anyway, he prophesied to them, and then Jeremiah remained back in Jerusalem with the remnant that was left there to keep the city. And, so they were all contemporaries of each other, different ages, but contemporaries of each other. So I think that's interesting. So along with that, you had the different kings, 3 or 4 different kings over this course of years. I think, was it Zedekiah had his eyes gouged out, and then it just on and on. And in fact, Francine Rivers, the author, writes books, has written books. I call them like Bible 3D because they're historical fiction, and she has one that covers this era. I forget what it's called, but you can see her books online. Francine Rivers, they're really, really, really good. She's an award-winning author. So let me continue here. So it's talking about this. It says Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, who was the king of Judah, and the princes of Judah and the craftsmen and smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. One basket had very good figs, like the figs that are the first ripe, and the other basket had bad figs, which could not be eaten, they were so bad. Then Yahweh asked me, what do you see, Jeremiah? I said, figs. The good figs are very good, the bad figs are very bad, so bad they can't be eaten. Yahweh's word came to me, saying, Yahweh, the God of Israel, says, like these good figs, so I will regard the captives of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans, which is Babylon, for good. For I will set my eyes on them for good, and I will bring them again to this land. I will build them and not pull them down. I will plant them and not pluck them up. I will give them a heart to know me, that I am Yahweh. They will be my people, and I will be their God, for they will return to me with their whole heart. There's a key there. Verse 8, as the bad figs, which can't be eaten, they are so bad, surely Yahweh says, so I will give up Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and his princes, and the remnant of Jerusalem, who remain in the land, and those who dwell in the land of Egypt. So you have three places going on here, right? You have Babylon, you have Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and then you have down south, you have Egypt. I will even give them up to be tossed back and forth among all the kingdoms of the earth for evil, and to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse, in all places where I will drive them. I will send the sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them until they are consumed from off the land, and that I gave them to their fathers. Chapter 25. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah. This was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, which Jeremiah the prophet spoke to all the people of Judah and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. From the 13th year of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah, even to this day, these 23 years, Yahweh's word has come to me, and I have spoken to you, rising up early and speaking, but you have not listened. Yahweh has sent to you all his servants, the prophets, rising up early and sending them, but you have not listened or inclined your ear to hear. See, God was warning them, warning and warning and warning. He's still doing that today. Better listen. Saying, return now, every one from his evil way and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that Yahweh has given to you and to your fathers, from of old and even forevermore. Don't go after other gods to serve them or worship them, and don't provoke me to anger with the work of your hands. Then I will do you no harm. Yet you have not listened to me, says Yahweh, that you may provoke me to anger in the work of your hands to your own hurt. Therefore Yahweh of armies says, because you have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, says Yahweh, and I will send to Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land and against the inhabitants and against these nations around. I will utterly destroy them and make them an astonishment and a hissing and perpetual desolations. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones and the light of the lamp. This whole land, will be a desolation and an astonishment. These nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. It will happen when 70 years are accomplished that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, says Yahweh, for their iniquity. I will make the land of the Chaldeans desolate forever. I will bring on that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in the book which Jeremiah has prophesied against all the nations. For many nations and great kings will make bondservants of them, even of them. I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the work of their hands. For Yahweh the God of Israel says to me, take this cup of the wine of the wrath from my hand, and cause all the nations to whom I send you to drink it. They will drink and reel back and forth, and be insane, because of the sword that I will send among them. Then I took the cup at Yahweh's hand and made all the nations to drink, to whom Yahweh had sent me. Jerusalem and the cities of Judah with its kings and princes, to make them a desolation, an astonishment, a hissing, and a curse, as it is today. Pharaoh king of Egypt with his servants, his princes, and all his people, and all the mixed people, and all the kings of the land of Az, all the kings of the Philistines, Ashkelon, Gaza, Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod, Edom, Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all the kings of Tyre, all the kings of Sidon, and the kings of the isle which is beyond the sea, Dedan, Tema, Buz, and all who have the corners of their beard cut off, all the kings of Arabia, all the kings of the mixed people who dwell in the wilderness, and all the kings of Zimri, all the kings of Elam, and all the kings of the Medes, and all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world which are on the surface of the earth, the king Shishak will drink after them. You shall tell them, Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel says, drink and be drunk, vomit, fall, and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you. It shall be, if they refuse to take the cup at your hand to drink, then you shall tell them, Yahweh of armies says, you shall surely drink. For behold, I begin to work evil at the city which is called by my name, and should you be utterly unpunished, you will not be unpunished, for I will call for a sword on all the inhabitants of the earth, says Yahweh of armies. Therefore prophesy against them all these words, and tell them, Yahweh will roar from on high and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He will mightily roar against his fold. He will give a shout as those who tread grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. A noise will come even to the ends of the earth, for Yahweh has a controversy with the nations. You know, it's funny what catches your attention when you're reading or listening to the word. It says, he will give a shout as those who tread grapes. Well, I didn't know that people who treaded grapes shouted. Did you? I mean, why would you shout? The funny picture that came to my mind was stepping into a vat of grapes and it's cold and squishy, you know. Or maybe it's a joyful shout because the time has come to tread the grapes. I don't know. You know, like the celebration of the harvest. So, like I said, it's funny what comes to your mind. Verse 31, a noise will come even to the end of the earth, for Yahweh has a controversy with the nations. He will enter into judgment with all flesh. As for the wicked, he will give them to the sword, says Yahweh. Yahweh of armies says, behold, evil will go out from nation to nation, and a great storm will be raised up from the uttermost parts of the earth. This makes me think this is talking about the tribulation period, but honestly, I don't know. Because he went from talking specifically about Judah to all nations here. Please feel free to comment your thoughts about that if you know, if you've studied this out. Verse 33, the slain of Yahweh will be at that day from one end of the earth. See, it says that day, which I was taught, that day, the day, and the Lord's day, all refer to that 7-year tribulation period, the great day of the Lord's wrath. So it says, the slain of Yahweh will be on that day from one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. They won't be lamented. They won't be gathered or buried. They will be dung on the surface of the ground. Wail, you shepherds, and cry. Wallow in dust, you leaders of the flock, for the days of your slaughter and of your dispersions have fully come, and you will fall like fine pottery. The shepherds will have no way to flee, the leader of the flock no way to escape. The voice of the cry of the shepherds and the wailing of the leader of the flock, for Yahweh destroys their pasture. The peaceful folds are brought to silence because of the fierce anger of Yahweh. He has left his covert as the lion, for their land has become an astonishment because of the fierceness of the oppression and because of his fierce anger. That's it for today's reading of Jeremiah 23 to 25. Thanks for joining me. Shalom, shalom.